The forest, no one is ever truly safe there. In the darkness, something watches, waits, and strikes when you least expect it. These are 5 terrifying true stories of horrifying encounters deep within the woods. Stories that still haunt those who lived through them. Even after all these years, they're too scared to speak about it. Are you ready to hear what really happened? Story 1. The Forbidden Night in the Amazon. I was never sure if I should tell this story. Even now, every time I remember it, cold shivers run down my spine. It happened when I was just 7. In the heart of the Amazon jungle, right on the Brazil-Peru border, life there was wild but peaceful. Everybody knew each other. I had a big circle of friends, and we spent our days exploring the vibrant green of the jungle. But not everything in paradise is safe. Our region was constantly under threat from armed groups who fought for control. All the kids in the village had 2 strict rules. Never go near the terrorist zones, and never leave the village after dark. My parents drilled it into me. Since I was little, hide. If something feels wrong, run if you sense danger. One evening, during a festival that felt like a jungle version of Halloween, all the adults were celebrating. My mother painted her face with tribal marks, and all the kids were sent to a safe house under the supervision of a 17-year-old girl named Mira. But the moment our parents left, Mira ditched us. We, a group of 6 kids, were left on our own. The oldest among us was Leon, 14 years old. Leon was reckless, daring, but we trusted him. He always came up with crazy ideas, but deep down, we believed he'd never leave us behind. That night, after playing soccer and snacking, boredom hit. Carla, the boldest girl, suggested we paint our faces like the tribes, do and dress up with jungle hats. We all agreed, even me, the youngest. And that's when Leon, with his usual grin, said, "Let's go find a hidden treasure in the Amazon." It was supposed to be a joke. It turned into a nightmare. Leon stole a lantern and somehow got us into a boat big enough for 6. At midnight, we set off, 6 kids, floating down the dark Amazon River, laughing, splashing water, thinking we were on the greatest adventure of our lives. We were so wrong. We were still laughing and joking when a voice cut through the jungle air. "Who's there?" A boat with a bright lantern was coming straight at us. Leon dropped our lantern and hissed, "Down! On the floor! Don't move!" I can still feel the cold wood of that boat pressing against my cheek as I lay there, gripping Carla's hand, hardly daring to breathe. But it was too late. A harsh voice barked, "Stop hiding, I see you." We froze. I slowly lifted my head, and there they were. 4 armed men standing on their boat, rifles aimed at us. Not pistols, real guns. The biggest one, with a dirty red bandana, let out a dry laugh. "They're just kids," he said, but then his face hardened. Leon stood up, trying to look brave. "We're going home. Our parents are waiting." The man's eyes darkened. "You shouldn't be out here alone at night. Kids disappear in this jungle. No one ever finds them." My stomach dropped. Carla started crying. Then, as quickly as they'd appeared, the man waved his hand. "Go. You're tribe kids. You're worthless to us." They turned their boat around and drifted into the darkness. We didn't speak a word. As we paddled back, we just cried quietly and hugged each other the whole way home. That night, we locked all the doors and windows and slept together on the floor. But before we fell asleep, we made a pact no one would ever know about this. Not our parents, not the village. Years later, I realized why they let us go. They thought we were just jungle tribe kids, worth nothing to them. If they had known we were from the village, I wouldn't be here telling you this story. Story 2. The Man in the Woods, me, and a group of 8 guys, all between the ages of 18 and 38, used to gather a few times a year on a friend's large piece of land in the Rocky Mountains. We'd spend days clearing brush, making fire breaks, and when the season allowed, cutting Christmas trees. On this trip, it was early spring, and we were up at 9,200 feet elevation. There was still a heavy layer of snow on the ground. After a long day of hard work, we were about to head back to camp when the oldest guy in our crew jokingly suggested we hit the slope. It was an open, treeless hillside about 100 yards wide, flanked by thick woods on both sides. perfect for towing a snow tube downhill behind our Gator utility vehicle. So we set up a small fire pit, cracked open some whiskey, and started pulling each other down the slope. Jeff, the youngest of us, just 18, got the wildest rides. We were swinging him dangerously close to the trees, messing with him as a kind of initiation. Around 1 a.m., the fire was dying, light snow was falling, and the woods around us were pitch black. Just as we were wrapping up one of the last runs, Jeff freaked out. He stumbled, his face pale, words stuck in his throat. It took a minute before he finally blurted out, I saw someone, a man, standing by the trees, watching. We all froze. Jeff described him, a man in a trapper's hat with ear flaps, like some old-time hunter, and a plaid mackinaw coat. At first, we laughed it off. We were on private land, high up in the mountains, in freezing weather. It made no sense. But what we didn't know was that this night wasn't over yet, and this was only the beginning. Despite our doubts, we grabbed the rifles from the Gators, switched on our flashlights, and cautiously headed toward the tree line, where Jeff said he saw the man. We searched. Nothing. No footprints, no broken branches, no sign that anyone had been there. It felt wrong, the kind of wrong your gut screams at you about. We figured Jeff's imagination, the whiskey, and the eerie environment had played tricks on him. So we packed up and rode back to camp, only about 1/8 of a mile away. But Jeff didn't sleep. He sat by the fire, staring into the dark woods, swearing over and over again that he knew what he saw. We left the next morning. On our way into the nearby town for breakfast, we passed a blockade at the main road. Police, cars, an ambulance. Curious, we stopped. The police told us a body had been found in a ditch by the road. A man in a plaid coat and a trapper's hat. He'd shot himself. They said they'd tracked reverse footprints leading straight from the slope, through the neighboring property, down to where they found him. It was him, the man Jeff saw standing in the woods that night. We still don't know what he wanted, or if he'd been watching us all along, but I'll never forget the look on Jeff's face when the cops confirmed it. It wasn't a prank, it wasn't whiskey. The man was real, and he was already a dead man walking when... Story 3. The Stranger by the Forest Road. It was a cold December night in our small German village. The clock had just passed midnight when I texted my friend Lisa. Like many nights before, we planned to meet up for a quick smoke and some quiet talk before heading to bed. We were both 19, secretly smoking without our parents knowing. It had become a weird little ritual. Sitting inside my car, parked at the edge of the forest road, away from the village lights. The road there was silent, surrounded by tall, dark trees. You could barely see beyond the first few meters of forest. It felt safe until that night. Lisa got into the passenger seat, and we lit our cigarettes, talking about random things, your school, life, and all the silly stuff. About 15 minutes later, I noticed her face freeze. "What's wrong?" I asked, confused. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes were locked on something behind me, out the rear window. "There's someone by the trees," she whispered. I turned slowly. At first, I saw nothing but darkness. Then I caught a shape, a shadow standing still at the edge of the forest. It was a man. My hand shook. As I pressed the lock button, the loud click echoed like a gunshot inside. "The silent car," Lisa whispered, almost in a hiss. "Drive, just drive." But I couldn't move. My fingers hovered over the gear stick. The man wasn't moving either. He just stood there, like a statue staring through the glass, with eyes that didn't blink. Then I noticed his face. It was all wrong. His eyes were unnaturally wide, the whites bulging too much. His skin was pale, not pale like a sick person. It was the color of ash. And that smile, it stretched far too wide, like his skin had been sliced open at the corners of his mouth. I swallowed hard and started the engine. The roar of it broke the heavy silence, and that's when he tilted his head, slow, curious, almost playful. Then without warning, he crouched down and began crawling toward the car on all fours. Not running, not charging, just crawling, slow and jerky, like a puppet with its strings tangled. I slammed the gear into reverse and hit the gas. The tires squealed. as we shot backward down the road. Lisa screamed, "Go, go!" "Don't stop." My heart hammered in my chest as I spun the wheel and sped off down the narrow path. The headlights bounced off the trees, shadows dancing like twisted arms. In the mirror, I saw him. He was standing again, just standing in the middle of the road, head tilted, watching us fade into the darkness. We didn't stop until we reached Lisa's house. We burst inside, slammed the door, locked every window, and sat on the floor, catching our breath. Neither of us said a word. We never told anyone. And I've never, not once, driven down that road again. But every now and then, when I'm driving alone at night, I feel eyes watching me from the shadows between the trees. And sometimes I think I see a smile in the dark. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there. I felt my heart slam against my chest. Maybe it's just a hunter, I tried to joke. But even I didn't believe myself. The man stepped forward. We both froze. He kept walking, slowly, towards the car. Lisa whispered, "Lock the doors." I reached for the lock button, but right before I could press it, the man stopped less than 5 meters away, and he just stood there, staring at us in total silence. Story 4. The Cabin in the Woods, Part 1. They always told us never to hike past the ridge. Locals called it the line, the invisible border between the safe forest trails and something much darker. But that night we didn't listen. We were 5, all friends from college, spending the weekend camping in the Black Pine Woods. After a few drinks by the fire, someone joked about the abandoned hunters' cabin past the ridge. They say it's cursed, that anyone who stays there disappears. We all laughed, except for Mark. He said nothing, just stared into the fire. With a strange look, at midnight the stupid idea became a dare. We packed a lantern, a camera, and hiked toward the ridge. The deeper we went, the quieter the forest became. No wind, no animals, just the crunch of leaves under our boots. And then we saw it, half hidden behind thick trees in the cabin. Old rotten wood, windows cracked open like gaping mouths, a heavy door slightly ajar, as if waiting for us. We stood there staring, and then Mark whispered something none of us expected. "I've been here before, but I never told anyone." We all froze. "What do you mean, you've been here before?" I asked. Mark didn't look at us. He kept his eyes on the door. "I came here when I was a kid," he whispered. "My uncle brought me here." His voice cracked. He said this cabin was a testing ground, a place where the forest chooses who stays. None of us spoke. A cold wind suddenly blew through the trees. Sharp, unnatural. The door creaked open wider, though no one touched it. Mark slowly stepped forward. "Wait, are you serious?" We shouted, but he didn't stop. He reached the door, pushed it open. Inside, the air was heavy. Rotten wood, old blood, and something else. The walls were covered in strange carvings, symbols, faces twisted in silent screams, and in the center of the floor, a trapdoor, half open. Mark looked back at us. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "but it wants someone this time." Then the door slammed behind us, locked. We ran to it and pulled, kicked, screamed. It didn't budge. And Mark just stood by the trapdoor, staring into the darkness beneath. That's when we heard it, a voice coming from under the floor, calling each of our names, one by one, and I swear it was in Mark's voice. In the mirror, I saw him. He was standing again, just standing in the middle of the road, head tilted, watching us fade into the darkness. We didn't stop until we reached Lisa's house. We burst inside, slammed the door, locked every window, and sat on the floor, catching our breath. Neither of us said a word. We never told anyone. And I've never, not once, driven down that road again. But every now and then, when I'm driving alone at night, I feel eyes watching me from the shadows between the trees. And sometimes I think I see a smile in the dark. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there. I felt my heart slam against my chest. Maybe it's just a hunter, I tried to joke. But even I didn't believe myself. The man stepped forward. We both froze. He kept walking, slowly, towards the car. Lisa whispered, "Lock the doors." I reached for the lock button, but right before I could press it, the man stopped less than 5 meters away, and he just stood there, staring at us in total silence. We called him, no answer. Then we heard it. "Help me." It was Max's voice, but it wasn't right. It sounded stretched, wrong, like something was pretending to be him, mocking him. The voice echoed from every direction, like the forest was playing with us. Chloe started crying. Daniel grabbed my arm. That's when I noticed the whispers weren't just around us. They were inside our heads, and that's when the real nightmare began. We ran. We didn't grab the tents. We didn't take the bags. We just ran. But no matter which way we turned, the forest didn't let us out. The trees felt closer, denser, like they were moving. The whispers followed, calling our names, repeating our fears, our secrets. "Chloe, I know what you did." "Daniel, you'll never leave." "Emma, come closer." My heart was pounding so loud, I could barely hear Chloe sobbing beside me. Daniel grabbed my hand and pulled me forward. We burst into a small clearing, and there, Max, standing in the middle, his flashlight dangling from his hand, head slightly tilted, eyes wide open, and that smile, that horrible, unnatural smile. "Max!" Daniel shouted. He didn't move. Then Max whispered, but his lips didn't move, and his voice echoed from everywhere at once. "You stayed too long." Suddenly, he lifted his head, eyes rolled back, and screamed. Not a human scream, a deep, inhuman screech that made the trees shake. We ran again. Branches scratched our faces. Something cold brushed my arm, and like a hand, the whispers turned into a deafening roar. And then, silence. We stumbled out of the trees into the empty road, the forest behind us, dead silent, as if nothing happened. Max never came out. We called the police. They searched for days. They found nothing. No trace of him. No tent. No footprints, nothing. People said he just got lost, but we knew the forest took him. And sometimes at night, when the wind blows from the woods, I still hear it. "Emma." And that's the truth. The forest holds its secrets. No one ever walks out the same. Once they've stared into the heart of the woods, some survived, some never returned, but all of them carry the terror with them forever. So next time you hear a sound in the woods, maybe don't look back.